Hey, what's up, YouTube? I'm outside, just chilling outside. My hands is really cold. It's a little cold outside. I plan on making this video, you know, not too long, but yeah, I just want to talk about the difference between a 90's baby and a 90's kid. Obviously, it's something that I've been seeing, over social media, for a couple of years now, because people don't really know the definition of a 90's baby versus a 90's kid. A lot of people don't know that. Some people do know, and a lot of people don't know. They think that if you're born in the late 90's, you're not qualified as a 90's baby. Yes, you are. You was born in the 90's. Now, I was born in 98. I'm a 90's baby, but I'm a 2000's kid. That's the difference right there. And like, I mainly see this, like if you was born in the early 90's, to me the early 90's is, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. It's in the early 90's, but like it's sort of, because to me 95, 96, those are like the middle parts of a decade. For example, like 85, 86, to me that's like the middle part of the decade. Like it's not the late it's not the late part of the decade, but it's just the middle part. So to me, 95, 96, if you was born between 95 and 96, you're like in the middle. You're a mid-90's child. You was able to experience a good amount of years in the 90's, but if you're 97, 98, 99, you're in the same class as me. You're a late 90's baby, but you're a 90's baby at the end of the day. But yeah, I always hear this shit, man, that, people are always talking about late 90's babies, about how, like, we don't know about certain things and shit like that. Like, you've been hearing that from people born in the, and I'm about to get into the difference between if you was born in 87, 88, 89, even 85, 86. Like, you're an 80's baby, but you're a 90's kid. But if you was born between the early 80's, 81, 80, 82, 83, 84, like, you're a early 80's baby, but you're a mixture of an 80's baby mixed with a 80's kid to a degree. But if you was born in the early 80's, you spend, your teenage years in the 90's. You became, you came to middle school. You went to high school in the 90's. So you're like a 80's kid / 90's kid with a mix of a 90's teenager. That's the way it is. If you was born in, like, to me, in order to qualify, on my definition, in order to qualify as a super 90's baby, you have to be born between 90, 92. Because if you was born between those couple of years, you was able to spend a good 6-7 years in a decade. You was able to remember certain things. Even 93 to a degree, 93, but I feel like the super 90's babies and 90's kids was born between those 3 years. But I just get tired of people talking shit about late 90's babies. Those dogs are distracting me. Even though I love dogs, but they just distracted me right now. I can't let that get to me. But yeah, but the early 2000s, to me, it's underrated. A lot of people always like to, don't get me wrong, the 90's, it was a great decade. Obviously, no decade is perfect. Every decade have its flaws. Nothing is perfect in this world, but the 90's was a great decade for hip hop, music, movies. But the same with the 2000s as well, especially the early 2000s. You had a lot of great songs. You had a lot of great music, you had a lot of great movies, TV shows, cartoon shows. Just like any other decade. Every decade have its flaws. Every decade have its moments where it was bad. Everybody, nothing's perfect, but growing up in the early 2000s, it was good. I had a good childhood. Obviously, everything wasn't peaches and cream. You're gonna have your moments as a kid, where it's like you're gonna have some negative moments. That's just the way it is. That life is. But growing up in the early 2000s was fun, just like any other decade. The early 2000s was fun. We had technology, but not as much as we do now. When I was 5, or I'm not saying I'm older or anything. Obviously, I'm only 20, but when I was about 5, 7 years old, I didn't have any phones or anything. And now kids nowadays, they have iPhones and they know how to work it. Those kids that know how to work technology, phones, and even better than I do. That's crazy. How time has fly. But to me, you know, there's no shame in being a 2000s kid. I'm a 2000s kid, but I'm a 90s baby. I was born in the 90s. You was born at any point in the 90s, you're a 90s baby because you was born in that decade. 98, 99, doesn't matter what time of the decade you was born. You was a 90s baby. Don't let nobody try to shame you and say that you're not. But that's just my perspective on it, man. I just get tired of the hate that us late 90s babies get. I just get tired of that, man. But yeah, man, late 90s, it's a rude ass motherfucker, man. Just driving by, just being rude. But yeah, that's what it is, man. To be a late 90s baby, and also a 90s kid, man. Like you have to be born between the late 80s, the mid 80s, in order to qualify, in my opinion, as a 90s baby. I mean, as a 90s kid. I mean, you're an 80s baby if you was born in the 80s, but if you spend a lot of your childhood in the 90s, you're a 90s kid, but you're not a 90s baby, obviously. But that's just what I want to say, because a lot of people are confused when it comes to that. Not saying everyone. Some people know what it really means to qualify in a certain category. They understand that, but a lot of people don't. They're idiots when it comes to that. But I just gave my perspective on it, man. Just give my honest perspective. I just get tired of the hate that late 90s babies get. Even by one more thing before I go, even 90s kids that was born, 90s babies that was born in about 96, 95. I'm like, nigga, you're a middle 90s child. You're not even an early 90s child, and you telling me what I don't know about. Like people born between 95, 96. I'm like, you're in the middle. You're in the middle. Like, come on, you're in the middle. But yeah, man, I might make a part 2 to this. I don't know. It depends. But I just get tired of the hate that us 90s, late 90s babies get, man. It get very annoying to me. And ain't no shame in being a late 90s baby and being a 2000s kid. Ain't nothing wrong with it. It's not. It really isn't. Because a lot of people, they root for the generations. They root for the generation that they was a part of. So I understand that. But to me, you shouldn't downgrade another generation. That's just the way I look at it. You can pay homage to your generation all you want, but I don't feel like you should disrespect other people's generation. But that's all I wanted to say. YouTube. Peace out.